Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of What the Why with Barbara Ann on RVN Television. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured things out. Whether you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or you feel stuck and you want to get unstuck in your company, job, or life, all of our guests have something in common with you. At some point in their lives, they felt similarly. Today is no exception. Please join us in welcoming David Aaronson, Cialdini Institute founding member, Cialdini certified professional, certified coach, and ethical influence practitioner. As a certified coach, trainer, and practitioner from the Cialdini Institute, David specializes in the field of marketing. His company focus is leveraging the universal 7 principles of persuasion to help increase our ability to influence. They are dedicated to demonstrating how to utilize the 7 principles of persuasion, not just for marketing and sales, but for everyday decisions we all make. And I've actually had the privilege of participating in some trainings and presentations that David has given on this topic. He's worn many hats throughout his career, including Director of Digital Marketing for a charity, Digital Marketing Adjunct Instructor for UCLA Extension, Sales Executive for Sun Microsystems, and a Consulting Manager with Oracle. And he has numerous certifications in digital marketing, and related areas. I'm honored to have him join me via Zoom from Los Angeles area of California. So without further ado, please join me in a round of applause in welcoming David Aaronson, founding member of the Cialdini Institute and wearer of many hats to What the Why. So, yay! Welcome, 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 welcome. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very, very well. Thank you very much. Had a very exciting weekend with friends and family visiting and feeling really good.
Awesome. So speaking of friends and family, we just read through just a brief blip of some of your accomplishments over the years. But as we ask all of our guests on the show, we're kind of curious, what did little David want to be when you were growing up?
Little David had no idea, but as I grew older, particularly in high school, because I had a lot of very good relationships with teachers, I wanted to be a teacher. Throughout my career, actually, I have had the ability to teach in the various jobs that I've had. One part of that life, I actually created a whole training program and then was able to actually give that training throughout the United States. Teaching has always been a very large part of what I've done in any job that I've had.
Wow. So how did you you're kind of living into what you wanted to do even as a young person. But how did you get from wanting to be the teacher when you were little and the training program that you developed and taught throughout the United States to being a founder and member of the Cialdini Institute and the other work that you're doing, especially from a digital marketing perspective?
Right. So with all of my clients in the digital marketing business, which I've had for now 25 years, I've always been able to deal with technology and explain it in normal human terms, I'll call it, without jargon, but explaining how it works. And again, my ability to teach and honing those techniques of teaching over time, I've been able to be that communicator between real technical stuff and what people actually need to know about why they need to use the technology. And the technology part came from, I had an interesting talk with, while I was in college, one of my wife's uncles, who happened to be the CIO of Bunker Ramo, which is no longer existent, but used to be a huge aerospace company. And he gave me a test, showed me around, and I talked to a whole bunch of people. And the test said I had a great aptitude for computer work. I thought that was interesting. I started taking classes at my college, and lo and behold, yeah, that was really cool stuff. I had another friend who worked in the industry. He got me an interview almost 9 months before I was going to graduate. And so I had a job offer as soon as I graduated in June from a company called System Development Corporation, which was in technology. The project was creating a computer-assisted instruction platform in which instructors, professors could create courses, and students would then take the courses. Our system allowed you to do that and also kept statistics on it. So the start of my career in working was both technical and about teaching.
Wow. And so you took an assessment of sorts that kind of pointed you in the digital area, but what was it specifically about the digital aspects that really ignited your passion?
So it's easy for me to explain. I could do anything. So I was privileged, I would say, to be given access to early computer machines. And what I discovered very early is I could make it do anything I wanted. It was like the best toy and most expensive toy, I might also add, that anyone ever gave me access to. And so I had become thrilled with technology, but I still had in sort of the back of my mind, I need to teach, I need to explain, I need to be a communicator between this world, which I understood to be fairly technical, and I would talk to other students who weren't in, because I also had a major in literature, and they'd had no clue as what I was talking about, and I realized I need to change the way I communicated about particularly things about computerdom that would make people understand what they really were doing and why they were doing it.
Wow. Now it's interesting because computers have changed and are still changing. I mean, I remember when I was in college, I literally had to do like the DOS startup. And
Yep.
and then towards the end of my college, it was like, oh my gosh, we have Macs in our dorms. Like people didn't even have a computer in their own room. and that was after having like been exposed from a standard to an electric typewriter. So computers have not only evolved so massively, they've shrunk so much. So what are some of the things that you've seen that you would describe as being some of the more revolutionary aspects specific to the digital marketing field?
Yes. I undoubtedly, the most amazing thing, people don't realize really how amazing it is, but these little devices that we carry around in our pocketbooks and purses and back pockets and front pockets, and sometimes vibrate and sometimes make noises. A lot of people call them a phone, but in actuality, there's just a small app on the phone that is used rather infrequently, and it's really an internet device. And I look at it, the first place I worked, System Development Corporation, one of the things they did was developed defense software. We had a copy of the computer that was in Cheyenne Mountain, where the software run in real time.
Wow.
The size of that room was bigger than the current house that I live in, which is 3,800 square feet, right? The internet device that I carry in my hand is about 1,000 times more powerful and obviously a great deal smaller.
Yes.
Every time I think about it, when it comes to my foremind, I'm truly just absolutely amazed at what we had to do then and what we could do now, and the power that we have literally in the palm of our hand, which is another reason we have to stop calling it a phone. It's a portable internet device.
Wow. Yes, I mean, the amount of data that my phone can hold versus any of those earlier computers that I had
Yes,
is, and you're
absolutely.
right, it's not, and for me, it isn't just a phone. I have actually 6 different email accounts that I run through it, apps that I run through it, business Slack. I mean, so many different
Yep.
necessary tools. Videos, it takes photos, it's my GPS.
Yep.
Had a conversation with someone yesterday about how I just finally threw away my BlackBerry. And I remember when I was so excited to get one.
Yes.
And so you've seen so much in terms of the digital evolution. What would you say some of the biggest changes have been specific to how we market? Because I mean, it sounds like when you got started, there really wasn't, digital marketing came into existence in both our lifetimes.
Correct. So I worked for a company called Sun Microsystems, which it subsequently was actually bought by IBM. But they were all about small computers, and then the internet really exploded into being, and the explosion of the internet created a whole nother realm of what computers could do. And from that came the little devices that we carry around with us. And throughout all of this, for me, it was learning. I love learning, and I love being involved in learning and teaching others. So the fact that what became the internet and then became digital marketing is all about technology and content, and that's what I've been studying my entire life. I'm still a voracious reader on the non-technical side, and still deeply embedded in technology, and most of the people around me, I am way ahead of them. The younger generation is a little bit ahead of me, but not very much, because I've kept up with it, because that's been my job and been my business and what I've wanted to do. So I'm doing the things that I really wanted to do when I was that little kid before high school.
Awesome. Well, believe it or not, we're at the halfway point. So
Okay.
we're going to take a pause for our station supporters, advertisers, and then when we come back, and please, audience, please definitely come back and join us for more of What the Why as we delve into the 7 principles with David Aaronson. Welcome back to What the Why with Barbara Ann and today's very special guest, David Aaronson. We're just going to sum it up and say digital marketing expert among wearer of many other hats. And one of the things that I love about what David does is how he approaches persuasion, which of course is really the essence of marketing, but so many other things. So if you could tell us about the universal 7 principles of persuasion.
I'd be pleased to. Man by the name of Robert Cialdini, professor of behavioral science, decided a very long time ago to figure out why people say yes. What are the driving principles to make people say yes? And he tried, and all of what he came up with is sound scientific knowledge based on scientific testing with control groups and all the rest of it. And through that, he came up originally actually with 6. Reciprocity, we all know about reciprocity. I'll give you something, you have a feeling that you should give me back. In terms of advertising, is it 10% discount? It's a free sample. All of that is reciprocity. Something called liking, and that is, and we've seen that in ads, you see a celebrity that you like, therefore you buy their product. Very, very simple, but it works very, very well. We also have Social proof. We all know about social proof. Social proof is actually the nice word for peer pressure, but peer pressure, works, and we all know it. We've all experienced it. And the other one that's close to social proof is authority. And we all know that if the authority is in the room, a doctor says to do this, etc., we tend to believe the authority. We have faith in the authority, so then we'll say yes about it. And then there's a couple of others that are a little bit more subtle, but very, very strong. And one of those is something called consistency. As human beings, we want to be consistent in our thinking. We espouse values. We want to be consistent in those values. So we will do things. If we're told that this is merely being consistent, we're more inclined to say yes. I'll give you a short example of this because consistency is subtle. So there's some very wealthy districts south of San Francisco. We all know where they are. So they picked two groups within that. And in one group, they went up and they said, by the way, we're calling on you because there's been a lot of speeding in our neighborhood. Some children are playing. And we'd like you to, we have this 4-foot by 6-foot sign. And we want to put that on your lawn so that people see it and they'll slow down, make it safer for the kids. Only about 10% of the people wanted to put a 4-foot by 6-foot sign on their lawn. The second group, they never talked about the 4 by 6-foot sign. They went to them and said, same sort of, spiel. Driving, need to slow down. The kids playing. Could you put a small sign? It's like a 4 by 6 card, but just says drive safely. It would really help. We've done some experiments, and if you could put that in your window, we'd really appreciate it, and it will help the speeding. They got about 60% of the people to put that small sign in their window. 2 weeks later, they came back, not to the first group, but to the second group who now have the sign in the window. And not to everybody, just to the people that have the sign in the window. And they say, oh, we thank you so much for this. This has really been terrific. It's really helped, but we really need to go just a little bit further. We have a 4 by 6 sign. We'd like you, since you put this sign in your window, we know that you'll be willing to put this 4 by 6 sign on your lawn. 45% of the people put the sign on their lawn. The only difference, the only variable in that particular experiment is giving them something to be consistent about with the sign in the window. So that's sort of how consistency works. There's lots of other ways that it works as well, but it's very, very strong and somewhat subtle. And the last one that Cialdini found was something called scarcity. We've all seen this, only 4 left, all right, time-limited offer. And the real fact that has come out, and Daniel Kahneman, who I need to talk about in just a moment, who won a Nobel Prize in economics, even though he was a behavioral scientist, basically said that this scarcity is he proved that we are literally risk averse. So if I ask someone, would you like to come on with Barbara Ann on the What the Why, show for all of the wonderful things you'll be able to say, or you don't want to miss the opportunity to be on the Barbara Ann show, What the Why, blah, blah, blah. 50%, on average, 50% of people will choose the negative. There is nothing different in the two statements. Why do they choose the negative? We are risk averse. That word, don't miss out, clicks on something in our brains and we go and do it. So scarcity is a very, very powerful one. And then later, actually about 7 or 8 years ago, Cialdini created a 7th. And the 7th is something that he calls unity. Because he found in many of his experiments that a connection that the two people had, they found out they grew up in the same city. They found out that they went to the same high school. They were at some concert or athletic event that they were both at. That created something better than just liking or reciprocity when it came to building a relationship. You'd find that out about somebody on a plane and then talk to them for 3.5 hours. You wouldn't do that to someone who stayed a stranger. That connection created a bridge over being a stranger, and that person was now a friend because of that mutual connection that you had. And because it was so different from then just liking, he created unity as a 7th. And if you can create in someone that connection to them, you'll see that you create a much closer-knit connection in an instant. As soon as the acknowledgement comes up that you have that commonality. So that's the seventh one. Let me talk briefly about Daniel Kahneman. Daniel Kahneman was a behavioral scientist. He won a Nobel Prize in economics. Why? Because he said our brain is two brains. One is system 1 and one is system 2. System 2 is our prefrontal cortex. It's when we really do thinking. Thinking is hard work. You actually have to exert a lot of calories. People don't realize that people just sitting and thinking, well, they're not spending any calories. Yes, they are.
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
The brain actually needs a lot of calories to function. But it's very slow. Actual thinking, true thinking, or what Kahneman calls system 2 thinking. Most economists based all of their theories of economics on the fact that humans did system 2 thinking. The fact is, we do system 1 thinking. System 1 thinking is from our amygdala, the so-called reptile brain, the original reptile brain. Is it safe or not safe?
Yeah.
That was very simple. Now, we literally, each of us, have created these shortcuts, these biases, to cut down on the time that we would need to think, right? Because if we didn't, we'd literally not do anything because we'd be thinking too much. Well, should I do this? Should I take this step? Etc. And on top of that, his conclusion is 95% of the time we use system 1 thinking and not system 2 actual thinking. And that was a total revelation in economics. A whole bunch of economic theories got changed because of it, and therefore, as a behavioral scientist, Daniel Kahneman wins a Nobel Prize in economics. And it's very important for us to understand when we're using system 1 thinking, when we're using system 2 thinking, all of the 7 principles of persuasion and influence are system 1 thinking. Advertisers do not want you to think, they want you to react.
Wow. And in all honesty, you just touched on a huge part of what we do as coaches. And and it's interesting because what I'm hearing you basically say is what we call critical thinking is really system 2 thinking. The way that we should think about things versus the surface that we think about things. I have so many more questions and I could go on and on about this, but we're at time. So if anybody would like to reach out, I mean, we're talking about an incredible wealth of information that you have, and not to mention what you can do for businesses from a digital marketing perspective. So what's the best way to connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is just to send me an email, david@digitalinbound.com. If you want to call me, you can call me too, 323-428-2015. And we can talk, we can discuss, you can ask me questions, etc. One of the things that we do in our business is we do what we call, what is your influence challenge? Everyone has an influence challenge. In fact, Forbes came out with an article a couple of months ago saying it was one of the 5 top things that top executives think about and think is an absolutely important capability to have, is to influence people. We influence people all the time. We could use all of these 7 principles in influencing others. So we talk about, what is your influence issue? We'll talk about the influence issue and we'll help you come up with a solution to that influence issue.
So we'll tap into the fear of missing out. Take advantage. He gave you your information. Rewind and rewatch if you need to get it. So thank you again, David, for coming on our show and sharing your wealth of information with us. Now,
thank you, Barbara Allen.
You're welcome.
It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. Now, regarding our upcoming guests, you really don't want to miss what any of our guests has to say. I mean, they are every age, industry background, and many of them overcame seemingly insurmountable challenges to figure out their purpose in life. So tune in to learn and be inspired by how they did what they did and how you can achieve whatever you set your mind to by overcoming the fear of change or failure and having a possibilities mindset. If you missed what any of our past guests have said and want to check it out, you can also catch all 3 of our seasons on the on-demand page of What the Why with Barbara Ann, as well as on Roku television. You have so many viewing choices these days. I mean, so many. So thank you very much for watching us, and please tell a friend or colleague about us. As a reminder, like I just said, we're available 24/7 at rvntelevision.com as well as on Roku. And also, please remember, whether you're looking to make changes in your life, no matter how big or small, tune in again for more informational, inspiring, educational, and illuminating conversations with guests such as David, who found their purpose in life and overcame whatever challenges or learnings were out there to identify their core purpose and live it.